You may see it from the outside like this, but once you step inside, you're not going to tell the difference.
8 apartments, 33 people. Every single one of them was sleeping outside or on somebody's floor not long before they got the keys. They were built out of recycled steel shipping containers, the same rusted boxes you see stacked 6 high at the Port of Los Angeles, hauled off a cargo ship, emptied once, and left sitting in a freight yard with nowhere to go. Somebody took roughly 48 of them, cut windows and doorways into the sides, stacked them 3 stories tall on a quiet residential street in South Los Angeles, and turned them into a small apartment building. The address is 820 West Colden Avenue. If you drove past it, you would see a clean, modern building with balconies and a courtyard, and you would never guess what it used to be. This is the story of how the cheapest, most disposable object in global shipping became somebody's front door. Los Angeles County has one of the largest homeless populations in the United States. Tens of thousands of people sleeping in tents under freeway overpasses, in doorways downtown, in cars parked on side streets in Van Nuys and Boyle Heights because rent climbed faster than any paycheck could follow. At the time this project was being built, county officials estimated around 66,000 people were living without a home somewhere in Los Angeles County. The city had been pouring money into shelters for years. And here is the part that nobody in city government likes to say out loud in public. A lot of the people sleeping in tents were being offered shelter beds, and they were saying no, not because they were ungrateful, and not because they preferred the sidewalk. Traditional emergency shelters have a design problem. Shared sleeping rooms, shared bathrooms down a hallway, curfews that make it hard to hold a night shift job, no storage for your belongings, and critically, no door that you personally can lock. If you have already been robbed while you slept, if your identification documents or your medication or your shoes have disappeared out from under you once, a bed in a crowded room stops looking like safety. Outreach workers in South Los Angeles heard some version of this constantly. The shortage was not just beds. It was anything that felt like a home. So a small group of people started looking at the boxes sitting in the freight yards. A standard 40-foot steel shipping container is already a remarkable piece of engineering. It is structurally sound enough to have other loaded containers stacked on top of it. It is already weatherproof. It has already survived a Pacific crossing in open ocean weather. And there are enormous numbers of them sitting idle because it is often cheaper for a shipping company to buy a new container in Asia than to send an empty one back across the ocean. Cut a window into the wall, run electrical conduit and plumbing through the frame. Insulate the walls and the ceiling properly, because bare steel in a Los Angeles summer is an oven. Fit a kitchen, a bathroom, a real interior door, and you have the shell of an apartment for a fraction of what it costs to pour a foundation and frame a building from scratch. The people building this way report that it comes in at roughly a quarter of the cost of conventional affordable housing, and roughly a quarter of the time. That second number is the one that actually matters. A father sleeping in a car in a Ralph's parking lot tonight does not have 3 years to wait for permits, environmental review, financing rounds, and a construction schedule. He needs somewhere in the next few weeks. The nonprofit developer behind the Colden Avenue building is called Flyaway Homes, working in partnership with the People Concern, one of the largest homeless service organizations in Los Angeles. They bought a duplex on a residential street, had the plot rezoned, and started stacking. What they finished was a 9-unit, 3-story building with a community room and an apartment for an on-site resident manager. 8 4-bedroom family apartments, roughly 800 square feet each, with a full kitchen, a bathroom, and a front room. Not a bunk, not a cot behind a curtain, an apartment. Then came the part that is much harder than construction, deciding who moves in first. John Kilgore is a single father of 5 children. Before any of this, he had a home and he had work. Then his health went wrong. Medical problems piled up, the work dried up, and the money that had been just barely enough stopped being enough at all. And housing in Los Angeles is unforgiving about that. You do not slide gently, you fall. He lost the place they were living in, and because he could not keep 5 children with him while he had nowhere to sleep, the family came apart. His kids went to relatives, split up between different households. He He spent the next 3 years moving between the floors and the couches of anyone who would take him in for a few nights. 3 years. Think about what that actually means day to day. Not just no bed of your own, but no way to be a father in any ordinary sense. No dinner table, no school run. Not being the person your children come to at the end of the day, because you are somewhere else, on somebody else's sofa, trying not to be a burden long enough that they stop answering the phone. He has said since that he had more or less stopped expecting it to change. Then he got the call. The people concerned told him he had been approved. There was a 4-bedroom apartment on Colden Avenue, and it was his. The family walked in for the first time in late 2018, and here is the detail that people who have never been through it tend to miss. The apartment was already furnished, beds made, kitchen stocked, everything in place before they arrived. Kilgore has said they walked in carrying the small amount of clothing they still owned, and that was all they needed to bring, because everything else was already waiting. He described his children walking through the door and their faces lighting up, all of them smiling at once, and he said that seeing that made him happy, which is a very ordinary sentence and also the whole point of the building. He has called the moment he got those keys the happiest moment for all of them. Not because the apartment was luxurious, because it was theirs. 2 years later, a CNN crew came to film at Colden Avenue, and what they found in the Kilgore apartment was not a dramatic scene at all. Jonelle Kilgore, 12 years old, was sitting on the couch doing his online schoolwork with the family's puppy, a little dog named Jasmine, asleep on his lap. That is it. That is the footage. A kid doing his homework with a dog on his lap in a room made out of a shipping container that used to carry freight across the Pacific Ocean. And that is exactly why the project worked. Jonelle told the crew he liked it. He liked moving in there, and that it was a home for them. A 12-year-old does not evaluate square footage or construction costs. He evaluates whether he has a place to sit and do his homework where nobody is going to move him along. But there is something underneath the furniture and the puppy that matters even more, and it is the thing that separates this from a shelter. The Kilgores were not assigned a bed. They were given a lease. A shelter bed can be reassigned tomorrow morning. It can be lost for breaking a curfew, or lost when the funding cycle ends, or lost when the building has to close, and none of that is in your control. It is accommodation you are permitted to use. An apartment with your name on the lease is a completely different object. It means your mail arrives somewhere. It means you can register your children at the local school and keep them there next term. It means the county has an address for you, and a person with an address exists on paper in a way that a person without one simply does not. It means you can keep a dog. And it means you can plan. You cannot plan anything meaningful in 3-day increments. The numbers back that up. At the Colden Avenue community, more than 92% of residents were still housed a year after moving in, which the organizations involved credit to the on-site support services rather than the building alone. A resident manager lives in the building. A social worker helps with everything from paying rent on time to arranging transport to medical appointments. The steel box gets someone off the street. The support is what keeps them off it. Now, none of this went up without resistance, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. Container housing arrives with an image problem attached. When people in a residential neighborhood hear that a developer intends to stack shipping crates on the empty lot down the road and move formerly homeless families into them, they do not picture balconies in a courtyard. They picture a work camp. They picture something temporary and ugly that will still be there in 20 years. And they picture it directly affecting the value of the house they spent 30 years paying for. The site itself had to be rezoned before anything could be built on it, and every step of that process is public, contested, and slow. There is also a fair objection buried in the unfair ones. Steel conducts heat and cold ferociously. Cut too many openings into a container, and you compromise the structure that made it useful in the first place. Done cheaply, container housing genuinely is miserable to live in. The only answer to that objection is to build it properly. Full insulation, proper ventilation and climate control in every unit, real appliances and real finishes, rather than the cheapest thing that passes inspection. That is the reason the finished buildings look the way they do. It was never only about comfort. It was about making the argument in advance, in steel and glass, to everybody who assumed the worst. If stories like this one are worth your time, I put together a free resource called the Veterans Blueprint. It lays out the specific programs, the application steps, and the practical moves available to someone who is close to losing their housing, or who has already lost it, or who wants to actually help somebody in that position. The link is in the description below. No cost, and you are welcome to pass it on to anyone who needs it. Now, back to what happened after Colden Avenue. The building did what it was supposed to do, and people noticed. In 2019, Los Angeles County ran something called the Housing Innovation Challenge, looking for approaches that could actually move faster than the crisis. Flyaway Homes won a $1 million grant. That money went into a second site at 837 West 82nd Street, a few minutes away in South Los Angeles. 16 two-bedroom supportive housing units, a manager's apartment, and a community room, totaling around 8,600 square feet, designed to house up to 33 people, including single adults, sharing units the way roommates share a college dormitory. Like the first building, it was leased to the people concerned to run. But the most striking thing anyone did with this idea in Los Angeles was not built by a nonprofit at all. It was built by the county. And it was built on a piece of land that had been earmarked for something very different. For years, there was a vacant lot sitting near Union Station in downtown Los Angeles. It had been a parking lot, and the plan for it was to serve as a staging area for the construction of a new men's central jail. In 2019, county officials started asking whether that was really the best use of the land. Then the pandemic hit, and the questions stopped being theoretical, because thousands of people sleeping outside in close quarters had suddenly become a public health emergency as well as a humanitarian one. Supervisor Hilda Solis pushed to convert the site into interim and permanent housing instead. The county brought in NAC Architecture and the builder Bernard's and worked with the Department of Public Works to accelerate the design, permitting and construction as far as it could legally be accelerated. The result opened in 2021 and is called the Hilda L. Solis Care First Village. 232 housing units built largely from stacked shipping containers, spread across 64,000 square feet on roughly 4 acres, with a commercial kitchen, a dining hall, laundry facilities, landscaped courtyards, and a dog park. It was finished in 6 months. 6 months, on a site that had been slated to hold construction equipment for a jail. The apartments came furnished with beds, microwaves, refrigerators, televisions, and private bathrooms, and each unit was given its own heating and ventilation system, so that residents were not sharing air during a pandemic. It reached full occupancy roughly a month after opening. Solis described the philosophy behind it as care first, jail last, and said the real breakthrough for other public officials to see was that homelessness can be addressed with dignity and respect. One resident who spoke to the Los Angeles Times said the environment was genuinely impressive and compared it to staying at a Best Western, only smaller. Sit with that comparison for a second, because it is more powerful than it sounds. She was not describing a shelter. She was describing a hotel, and the idea did not stay in Los Angeles. Atlanta opened a downtown community called The Melody, built from steel container units the state had originally acquired for overflow medical capacity during the pandemic. When the emergency passed, rather than scrapping them, the city converted them into 40 individual homes, each with a bed, a kitchenette, and a private bathroom. One of the first tenants, a man who had spent roughly a year sleeping on Atlanta sidewalks, told a reporter his feet had ached constantly from the concrete, and that after moving in, he woke up one morning and realized the pain was gone. In the Westlake district of Los Angeles, a modular project called Hope on Alvarado went up with 84 units for people moving off the street. Supportive apartment complexes built the same way have gone up for homeless veterans in Orange County and in Las Vegas. Container and modular housing projects have appeared in Detroit, in Washington, D.C., and in Puerto Rico. The concept keeps traveling because the underlying problem is identical everywhere it lands. not enough housing, not enough time, and no realistic way to build the traditional way fast enough to keep up with how quickly people are falling out of the bottom of the market. But the speed was never really what made this work. Every person who has spent time studying these projects ends up circling back to the same unremarkable piece of hardware, the lock. After months or years of sleeping somewhere you could not secure, somewhere your bag or your documents or your medication could vanish while you were unconscious, the ability to turn a key behind you changes something at a level below conscious thought. You stop sleeping with one ear open. Your nervous system finally gets permission to stand down, and only then does anything else become possible. Ask any caseworker. Nobody has ever successfully worked through an addiction, or held down a job search, or stuck to a treatment plan for a mental health condition, while their entire attention is consumed by the question of where their body will be at 2 in the morning and whether their belongings will still exist by breakfast. Stable housing is not the reward you receive at the end of that work. It is the precondition for starting it, none of which makes shipping containers a solution to homelessness, and nobody running these programs claims that it is. A converted steel container is smaller than what anyone would choose if they had every option in the world available to them. The goal for almost every resident is eventually to move into fully independent permanent housing once their situation is stable. These buildings are a bridge, but bridges are not a lesser thing. A bridge is the entire difference between somebody standing on one side of a gap for the rest of their life and somebody who actually gets across it. Back on Colden Avenue, the building is still standing and still full. Flyaway Homes has completed more sites, and the county has kept expanding the model. And a man who spent 3 years sleeping on other people's floors, with his 5 children scattered across other people's houses, now has a kitchen, a lease with his name on it, and a 12-year-old son who does his homework on the couch with a puppy asleep on his lap. Maybe that is the honest takeaway here. You do not always need a new federal program or a 10-year construction timeline to change how somebody's life goes. Sometimes you need a vacant lot, a stack of steel boxes that already crossed an ocean once, and a city willing to try something that looks strange on paper and works exactly as intended in practice. A door, a lock, a wall you can hang a photograph on, knowing it will still be your wall next week. If this one mattered to you, the Veteran's Blueprint is linked in the description below. And subscribe if you want more stories like it. I cover them every week.